Hello my sunbeams, it's me, Icarus, and today I'm reading We're All Family Here by Losing Letters on AO3. The rating is General Audiences, and the archive warnings is No Archive Warnings Apply. The category is Gen, and the fandom is Percy Jackson and the Olympians and related fandoms or media types. It's part 2 of the series Genderfluid Percy Jackson, and the summary is, okay good, so first things first. What are your pronouns? Percy's first day at camp is quite awful, but a talk with Cabin 11's counsellor improves it at least a little bit. Notes. Anyway, Percy is still gender fluid, Luke is pansexual, and Will is trans boy now. And Percy and Will be good friends later on, because I said so. Fight me. And on to the fic. Percy's first impression of Camp Half-Blood could be summed up as strange. After getting his tour from Annabeth, Percy quickly hurried back to his cabin. Everywhere he looked, he spotted something new and crazy. It was hard to imagine that he was supposed to get used to this someday, that this was actually his normal. Back at Cabin 11, everyone was talking and horsing around, waiting for dinner. For the first time, Percy noticed that a lot of campers had similar features. Sharp noses, upturned eyebrows, mischievous smiles. They were the kind of kids that teachers would peck as troublemakers. Thankfully, nobody paid much attention to him as he walked over to his spot on the floor and plopped down with his minotaur horn. He'd barely gotten somewhat comfortable when the counsellor, Luke, came over. He had the Hermes family resemblance too. It was marred by the scar on his right cheek, but his smile was intact, even if he looked a bit embarrassed right now. "Found you a sleeping bag," he said, and held up the black package he was carrying with his right hand. "And here, I stole you some toiletries from the camp store." Percy couldn't tell if Luke was lying and vowed not to ask. If he didn't know of another's crimes, he couldn't get in trouble for it. Besides, it was the nicest thing someone had done for him today. "Thanks." "No problem." "Right, so," Luke trailed off. "I talked with Kyron again, given your eventful arrival here." Oh boy, this was it. Percy was sure. Now Luke would decide that he would rather not have the weird new kid in his cabin and throw him out. "And he said you identify as gender fluid, right?" Percy blinked a few times, his brain taking its sweet time catching up with Luke's words. Of all questions, he hadn't expected that. Yes," he replied. "Okay, good. So first things first, what are your pronouns?" Luke didn't seem bothered by it. He sounded like he was talking about the weather, and that was something Percy had never seen before. They them, for simplicity's sake. Percy had gotten enough shit about wanting to be addressed by the proper pronouns, even if they might change within the day, so he had honestly given it up on anybody getting it right besides his mum. People complained enough about him being queer and a failure. He didn't want to be complicated as well. "Yeah, no, that's not what I asked," Luke said and crossed his arms. They were starting to cause a scene. The other campers were looking at them in curiosity, and needless to say, it made Percy deeply uncomfortable. He didn't talk about his gender if he could avoid it. Most of the time, he wished he didn't have to confront it. "It's he/him right now," Percy answered. He wanted to be done with this conversation. "Might change later, though?" Percy nodded. "Good. Just tell us if that's the case, alright? And one last question. I'm really sorry I'm asking all of this. I know you're probably super uncomfortable, but it's protocol. I'll be quick, okay?" He didn't wait for Percy to reply to that, but instead just kept talking. "I didn't want to presume, but I hadn't had the chance to properly talk to you before I stole all this, so you're AMAP, right?" Yes." Luke nodded, and his smile eased up a bit, losing its strain. "Awesome, then you shouldn't need any more stuff. Everything's in there." "Why are you so nice about this?" Percy blurted out before he could stop himself. "We're demigods, Percy. The children of the Greek gods. Honestly, being at least a little gay runs in our blood. I can introduce you to the other non-cis campers later if you want to. Right now, though, you look like you've had a tough first day." That was way too much information at once. There were more kids like him here? Logically, Percy had always known that he wasn't the only one. His mum had made sure that he knew that, but he'd never met anyone. His stepfather had never been encouraging of Percy's little freak girl phase, as he'd call it, and pretty much shot down any possibility of Percy going to a youth support group of any kind. "There are other kids like me here?" only 3 of which I know are gender fluid, but there are plenty of trans and non-binary folks in general. 2 kids in the polo cabin, another one in the Aphrodite, and like 6 interrupted a kid sitting on the ground, 2 sleeping bags away from Percy. Thanks, Will. Luke continued with an eye roll, but his amused tone gave him away. 6 queer kids here in Hermes. Since Will knows better, you should probably ask him instead of me. For everything else, though, I'm your counsellor. So, if you have any other questions, though, shoot them in my direction. This is all unreal, Percy decided. I don't even believe in gods. Yeah, Luke said. That's how we all started. Once you start believing in them, it doesn't get any easier. The bitterness in Luke's voice surprised Percy, because Luke seemed like a pretty kind and easygoing guy. He looked like he could handle just about anything. So, your dad is Hermes? Percy asked. Luke pulled a switchblade out of his back pocket, and for a moment, Percy thought he was going to gut him, but Luke just scraped the mud off the sole of his sandal. The wing-footed messenger guy? Luke nodded. That's him. Messages, medicine, travellers, merchant, thieves, anyone who uses the roads. That's why you're enjoying Cabin 11's hospitality. Hermes isn't picky about who he sponsors. Percy figured that Luke didn't mean to call him a nobody. He probably just had a lot on his mind, with so many people to look after. Have you ever met your dad? Once. Percy waited, thinking if Luke wanted to tell him about it, he'd tell him. Apparently, he didn't. Percy wondered if it had anything to do with how he got his scar. Luke looked up and managed a smile. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're all family here, and we stick together. We care about each other. Percy thought that Luke was one of the coolest people he had ever met. He looked exactly like the older high school seniors wanted to look like and never managed. And somehow, he did that without being a total douchebag, but helpful and understanding. Thank you, Luke. He reached over to Percy and messed up his hair. So, welcome to the family. We're all a bit crazy and fight too much, but there's nothing stronger than a bunch of demigods. Nothing. Author's note. Thanks for reading. I'm curious, which characters do you headcanon as non-binary, etc.? I'm not sure whether I'll rewrite the scenes from canon with a gender-fluid Lord of the Bathroom, or if I'll actually change big things, because it's been years and I'm still salty about Luke. That was We're All Family Here by Losing Letters on AO3. If you enjoyed it, please give them kudos and comments that they deserve. The link would be in the description, and I hope you enjoyed. Should I do part 3 in the series? It's the last one, and I'm pretty sure it's about the Lord of the Bathroom. So, please comment if you think I should do that. Thank you for listening, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. It means a lot to me.